evening and welcome. You're watching the Newstrack. The big Ambedkar Legacy Roundtable is my top focus on the Newstrack tonight.
Ambedkar firestorm rages. Total Parliament lockdown. BJP versus Congress, divide deepens. Ambedkar legacy war. That is our big focus on Newstrack.
The Ambedkar firestorm triggered a total lockdown in Parliament for 4 straight days, while Amit Shah's comments in Parliament gave an otherwise divided opposition a common cause. The divide between the BJP and the Congress hardened with charges of assault in the Parliament. Here's what went down on the final day of the winter session.
4 days of total lockdown in Parliament. The Ambedkar firestorm brought the final leg of winter session to a grinding halt.
मैं आप सभी से पुनः आग्रह करता हूं कि संसद की गरिमा मर्यादा बनाए सबकी सामूहिक जिम्मेदारी है.
Protests versus protests.
अब ये जानते हैं कि इन्होंने जो किया, इनकी असली भावना निकल आई है, जो अम्बेडकर जी के प्रति इनकी असली भावना है वो निकल आई है. इसलिए अब ऑपोजिशन से डर रहे हैं, क्योंकि हम इस मुद्दे को उठा रहे हैं.
हम राहुल गांधी कांग्रेस पार्टी से माफी मांगने की मांग कर रहे हैं. जो अम्बेडकर जी का मानवाद छोड़ना कांग्रेस पार्टी ने किया वो भी, और जो सांसदों के साथ राहुल गांधी ने किया वो भी.
Scuffle versus scuffle. Allegations of assault within the Sansad hardening the divide between the BJP and the India bloc.
ये पहली बार नहीं हो रहा है, ये लगातार देख रहे हैं. ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी की स्ट्रेटजी है कि पहले वो गलत काम करते हैं, जब आप उसका विरोध करते हैं तो प्रशासन से, शासन से आप पर झूठे मुकदमे लगाते हैं.
The leader of opposition booked for alleged physical assault against 3 BJP MPs. The charge Rahul Gandhi and the Congress denied.
बीजेपी के एमपी लकड़ियां लिए हमारे सामने खड़े होते हैं, हमें अंदर नहीं जाने देते हैं, और उसके बाद अब ये थोड़ा सा अपना फिर से डिस्ट्रैक्शन करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं.
The BJP has demanded an apology.
राहुल गांधी खुद एक नेता है और खुद इस तरह से धक्का मुक्की करना ये तो शोभा नहीं देता है. राहुल गांधी जी देश से माफी मांगना चाहिए. ये हमारे एमपीज का जो डिमांड है वो तो जायज है.
While Congress is up in arms against Amit Shah, demanding his resignation for allegedly insulting Ambedkar in Parliament.
बाबा साहब के प्रति जो अपमान हुआ कोई सहने नहीं वाला, और बाबा साहब के सामने अमित शाह जी को झुकना पड़ेगा.
The war over Ambedkar's legacy is far from over. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining us for the big Ambedkar legacy face-off, we're joined on this broadcast by a very sharp panel of experts. Allow me to introduce to you first Sugata Bose, a professor at Harvard University, where he's the Gardiner Professor for History. He's been a former member of Parliament. I have with us on this broadcast Dr. Kancha Ilaiah, one of India's best-known Dalit rights activists. I have Narendra Yadav, former member of Parliament. He's an author of several books. He's an expert on Ambedkar. I have Pawan Verma, former member of Parliament, one of India's foremost authors, well-known diplomat. And I have Hindol Sengupta, historian, author, and also an expert on international relations. So I want to frame this debate in 2 parts. One to do with what's happening just at this moment, what we've seen through this week, the face-off in Parliament with both the ruling government and the opposition, in particular the Congress, claiming that they are true Ambedkarites, that everything that Ambedkar imagined India to be, that they are striving to live up to those ideals and turn it into the India that Ambedkar had envisioned. Is that really even true? And if it is, which of the two parties is doing more to keep the legacy of Ambedkar alive? And in the second part of the show, we look at Ambedkar's strained relations with the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS as well as the Congress, and then try and look at who he thought was the lesser evil. So I'll start by going to Hindal Sengupta first on why you believe that the BJP government at this moment is true when it wants to claim Ambedkar's legacy, given the strained history at the time that Ambedkarji was alive between the RSS and Ambedkar, and given all that was said and done at that time, why do you think that Dalits and people in general should believe that the Prime Minister Amit Shah and BJP leaders are true when they say we are the true Ambedkarites, we want to bring alive Ambedkar's vision? Hindal Sengupta, let's start with you.
Rahul, I think there are three reasons. Number one, I think Baba Saheb Ambedkar stood for a particular kind of delivery of public goods and services without any discrimination. And that without any discrimination part is very, very important, because fundamentally the caste system created barriers and discriminatory hurdles to any delivery of goods and services. The rampant and widespread efficiency that we have seen due to the adoption of technology, and especially digital technology, has enabled today's India to deliver goods and services, especially welfare goods and services, in a scale and in a form never seen before. And that indeed, I think, would have delighted Ambedkar. Also, as we know from research, and I'm going to quote only one here, even 10 years ago, if you look at the research paper written by Chandrabhan Prasad, Devesh Kapoor and others, the one thing that impacts the most to destroy caste barriers is economic liberty. And economic liberty is a fundamental thing that, even today, the Congress party doesn't even take credit of the liberalization era that they themselves started. I think if anybody has inherited that mantle of liberalization, it is really the BJP. And indeed, that this is the only part, the economic liberty part is one of the most fundamental parts through which a destruction of caste-based barriers can happen. And my third reason, Ambedkar, and most people, even Ambedkarites, don't talk about this enough. Ambedkar saw the threat from radical Islamism more clearly than most other national leaders. His tract, his monograph on Pakistan, detailed his objections and his vision on where he saw the danger coming from. There are endless quotes of Ambedkar talking about how certain decisions, even in his own lifetime, taken by the Congress led by Mahatma Gandhi ji, were really, in his opinion, doing the wrong thing in promoting and, in a sense, protecting a certain kind of extremism from Islamic quarters.
So you've laid out in your opening comments why you think
decisions made by the BJP government on Pakistan and on Islamic radicalism would have gladdened Ambedkar.
So you've laid out three reasons for why you believe the BJP government is indeed pushing forward the larger ideals that Ambedkar wanted for modern India. Kancha Alaya, let's get you to counter why you think that the BJP government cannot be deemed the true inheritor of Ambedkar's ideals, and why you believe that this effort at appropriation reeks of opportunism. Dr. Alaya.
No, Rahul, Ambedkar's transformative agenda has two aspects. One is the political, constitutional, legal. That the RSS BJP in the beginning till 1990 and later, they were not comfortable. They thought that, Ambedkar has injected too much of westernization into the constitution, and then he himself was not the real architect of constitution, was part of the same RSS BJP ideological discourse. You take Arun Shauri's book, Worshipping False Gods. He was a minister, and he went on to say that he was not the real writer of constitution at all. Number two, they were dead against, even dead against now his spiritual agenda to liberate the not only Dalit masses, who he called, the Scheduled Caste Federation, but the entire Shudras and Adivasis, who have no role in the heaven that Amit Shah was talking. How can Kancha Ilaya, a Shudra, shepherd, a Dalit, Narendra Yadav, or an Adivasi can go to heaven where Mohan Bhagwat and Amit Shah are there?
No, but the RSS constantly talks about one Samaj, one well, one village. They want for all Hindu communities, including the Dalits, to come together with other Hindu communities, and that's what Mohan Bhagwat ji and the BJP are pushing very hard towards.
No, listen. No, I'll give you one example. Recently, one of the top state minister rank Dalit officials visited my friend's house in Hyderabad. The moment he entered the house, the children around, 3 years old, 4 years old, they have a habit of saying Jai Bhim, whoever comes. You know what that Dalit official said? No, don't say Jai Bhim, you say Jai Sri Ram. Now these are two different spiritual worlds. And that family gave him some food and all that, but they did not even see him off because he was against their Ambedkar spirituality. Ambedkar. So the point is, what Amit Shah was saying was not just his word. They are trying to even tell everybody, even by giving the posts within their domain, that don't use Jai Bhim. That is the spiritual heaven that Ambedkar has created as an alternative heaven to the
No, but
Hindu
you're saying what you are, but there is no comment on record from anyone to say that any senior BJP leader has ever said to Dalits, don't say Jai Bhim. They may, of course, chant Jai Shri Ram or Jai Siya Ram, but no one has ever said...
No, it is not saying. But did you ever see, did you ever listen? Did you ever listen Mohan Bhagwat saying Jai Bhim? Or Amit Shah saying Jai Bhim? Narendra Modi said, I know, even Narendra Modi after this debate said, we are here because of Ambedkar. But Mohan Bhagwat never said that. Amit Shah never said that. Why?
Let me put that question to Narendra Yadav. You're saying
that this Ambedkar spiritual system of converting to Buddhism and spreading into villages, every house now, his images, his statues are likely to convert into temples tomorrow. That is the fear. And RSS, BJP will not
Narendra Yadav, respond to Kancha Alaya.
Those Sudra Dalit
when he says that the RSS, BJP are not comfortable with the idea of Ambedkar as a modern day God, that it wasn't a slip of tongue by the Home Minister. If you look at his comments, it suggests a deeper reservation about wanting to treat Ambedkar as God. A lot of the people in the Dalit Samaj do, the BJP, RSS, the charge goes, doesn't. And this wasn't a slip of the tongue. It reflects what's deep inside the RSS conscience. Let Narendra Yadav respond to that.
Namaskar. Thank you for inviting me to this panel discussion. Responding to your specific question, the Honorable Home Minister's remarks, there are two aspects to that. One is the content, and the second one is the manner of delivering those remarks. As far as the content is concerned, frankly, there is nothing wrong in that. What he had said about the misdeeds of Congress towards Dr. Ambedkar are 100% true. In fact, I can add some more incidents of how Congress party had insulted Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. But coming to the other part, the manner in which was said, I think that is where the problem is. Home Minister's remarks were contemptuous, condescending, and demeaning. And they reveal the deep-seated hatred that the so-called upper caste have in their mindset. And therefore, this has very deeply hurt the sentiments of Dalits all over the country and abroad. This should not have happened. Coming to the question of which of the two are doing more, that was the question with which we started. I think both of them, Congress party and BJP, both of them have positive and negatives. As far as the Congress party is concerned, on the positive side, please don't forget that it was Congress party who proposed and elected him as the chairman of the drafting committee.
Sure.
And this was a big opportunity. It was the Congress party which made him the law minister in the first place, although he did not belong to their party. But then there were series of insults because of the Gandhi-Ambedkar fights that took place in the 1930s and later. There was a lot of antagonism towards Dr. Ambedkar.
Okay, so we'll spend more time on the past in some time. In a while, we'll spend more time on the past. I want to go across to Pawan Verma, who's been a parliamentarian and also an author. At this moment, which of these two political formations can claim we are doing more to keep Ambedkar's legacy alive? Pawan Verma.
Thank you, Rahul. My frank view is that this sterile attempt by both the BJP on the one hand and the Congress and some parts of the opposition on the other to constantly fight a competitive battle to appropriate past leaders of great stature such as Ambedkar has reached really juvenile levels. I say this with sadness because this is a battle that is being fought in terms of image making, of projection, of trying to claim who represents Dr. Ambedkar most, not in terms of how they actually implement some of his ideas, but of catering to the Dalit minority vote bank, which is a very significant segment of the electorate. The truth, Rahul, is that even today, whatever lip service is paid to Dr. Ambedkar and whatever has been done positively in the Constitution and through our laws, the Dalits remain an exceptionally oppressed and exploited segment of our society. And I say this backed with data. According to the latest NCRB data, which is government data, every day 6 Dalit women are raped in our country. Every 15 minutes, every day, a crime occurs against a Dalit. What is worrying is that the number of such cases as reported, and these are government statistics, have gone up rather than down. In fact, in 2022, of which we have the latest figures, they went up by close to 15% as compared to 2021. As far as individual states are concerned, of the entire number of crimes against Dalit, almost a quarter, and according to some statistics, as much as 28% of such acts against Dalits take place in one state alone, which is Uttar Pradesh.
Sure.
Uttar Pradesh accounts for between 24 to 28% cases. I don't care who rules that state. It could be the Congress at one time. It could be the BJP today. It is followed by Rajasthan, which is followed by Madhya Pradesh, which is followed by Bihar. Now, the number of cases as registered in these states have been going up, and even more worryingly, conviction rates have been falling. In a country where by now the judicial system should have been primed sufficiently, being aware of the ground realities, to ensure that if a crime is committed at least conviction takes place.
Okay, so you're making the point that this is a competitive battle aimed at image making and not necessarily trying to alleviate the station of Dalits in society. I want to go across to Saugata Bose. Professor Bose, from your lens, from within and without, of the two principal political formations at this time, who do you think has greater legitimacy when they say, we love Ambedkar more?
Well, the BJP, of course, wants to fashion as unified a Hindu political constituency as possible. They've already made inroads into the OBC social base, and so they want to expand among the Dalits. And therefore, they pay a good bit of lip service to Ambedkar, even though I don't think they have any real commitment to the values that Ambedkar represented. Dr. Ambedkar was an indefatigable champion of Dalit rights through the 1930s, 1940s, and the early 1950s. The Congress and the opposition, of course, are drawing on him because they want to build on a social justice plank. I think it's most unfortunate that Ambedkar has become the focal point of such sordid exchanges within the parliament premises. He was a formidable intellectual who could be robust in his own criticism of Congress and even of Gandhi, but he also knew how to take criticism. And I wish that both the Treasury benches and the opposition would learn from Ambedkar how to conduct themselves in Parliament. Let me give you an example from the Constituent Assembly. In his very last speech, Ambedkar paid tribute to half a dozen rebels of the Constituent Assembly who had put forward very creative and far-sighted amendments which Ambedkar and also, of course, the Congress majority could not accept. But he thanked them for enlivening the proceedings. Among them was K.T. Shah, who had wanted to amend Article 1 of the Constitution to read that India was a secular, socialist and federal union of states. His amendment was negatived. He also mentioned Hari Vishnu Kamath, who strenuously opposed the inclusion of the emergency provisions. He felt that authoritarian features of the old colonial constitution were being kept in the Indian constitution, and he compared the emergency provisions to Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution in Germany. But Ambedkar said that he hoped that these provisions would remain a dead letter. Now, in that, of course, he let his optimism triumph reality. We know what happened later on, but at least he knew how to pay a tribute to fellow members of the Constituent Assembly who had contributed to the debates, who disagreed with him, but nevertheless there was a certain sense of decorum. And I wish that both sides would take that particular lesson from B.R. Ambedkar.
Very well put there, Professor Bose. I want to zoom out for a moment and try and get responses on what we've heard so far and also look at the historical fault lines. Hindol, I want to quote from The Annihilation of Caste, Ambedkar expressing deep dissatisfaction with Hinduism, stating that his quarrel with Hindus and Hinduism was not just about imperfections, but over their ideals, arguing that Hindus cherish wrong ideals and live a social life, making it impossible for him to live a wrong social life, making it impossible for him to consent to such a society. In his call to leave Hinduism, he writes, he's urging Dalits to sever ties with Hinduism for their equality and dignity. I solemnly assure you that I will not die a Hindu. Now, given these past fault lines, Ambedkarites, the likes of Kancha Alaya, can say the BJP can never genuinely appropriate Hinduism, Ambedkarism, because Ambedkar himself was very anti-Hindutva.
Who studies history, Rahul, understands that every argument, including political argument, made by figures even as tall as Gandhiji or Baba Saheb Ambedkar, are fundamentally products of their time, as these men and women are also products of their time. Baba Saheb Ambedkar was reflecting and, of course, responding to what he saw around him and in the universe and in the India that he grew up in which the contamination of the Varna system had created a system which was deeply vicious towards lower castes and especially towards Dalits. Now, this is an environment in which he grew up, and this was his great argument with Gandhiji. Gandhiji argued that mobility was inbuilt in the Varnashrama system, and Ambedkar, of course, said that without demolishing the fundamental framework, which is the Varnashrama system, there could be no real freedom for the Dalits. And who are we to dispute that? Remember, even at that time, people like Savarkar were essentially talking about many of the same talking points, as it were, that were being spoken of by Baba Saheb Ambedkar, including untouchability and the demolition of untouchability and indeed temple entry. So there we cannot disagree on anything that Baba Saheb Ambedkar said in his context and his time. The fundamental question is this, Rahul. What really builds this entire caste discrimination-free society that I'm sure all of us in this panel also want and pray for? The only thing that can build this is a certain kind of upliftment, including economic upliftment, and something that Baba Saheb Ambedkar treasured deeply against Gandhian principles. Urbanization, because urbanization provides a certain kind of anonymity that breaks many of these old shackles that come from the Gandhian village society. Now, all of this is well known, I'm sure, to everybody in the panel. We have to ask ourselves, which are the politicians and which are the parties that are really pushing forth the agenda of greater economic mobility and indeed greater urbanization that will bring forth the caste discrimination-free society that we all want and dream.
Narendra Yadav, it's not just the problems that Ambedkar had with Hinduism. He also had problems with the RSS. In one place, I'm quoting from his writings and speeches, volume 15, he calls the RSS a very dangerous association. In a book that he's writing, he calls the RSS a poisonous tree. Now, the RSS is suddenly saying that they're very close to the ideals of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, but if you read Ambedkar's writings, he seemed to have very deep misgivings about the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh.
Let me put the fault lines in perspective. For the first, Dr. Ambedkar entered public life in 1924, and for first 10 years, he tried to reform the Hinduism from within. His temple entry satyagraha or Mahad satyagraha for water, they were all meant for reforms while remaining within the Hindu fold. But by 1935, he was completely frustrated because it was not yielding the desired result. And that is why he made an announcement in 1935 that I was born Hindu, but I am not going to die a Hindu. But please understand and remember that when it came to converting to another religion, which took place 21 years later in 1956, he chose Buddhism. He did not embrace Islam. He did not embrace Christianity because he was a true nationalist. And that is a particular factor which comes close to the Indianness that RSS has been talking about. So there is no conflict that I see there, but both sides have been trying to own up Dr. Ambedkar. One of his old colleagues, N. Shivraj, had said that Dr. Ambedkar would be more powerful dead than when he was alive. And that has come out absolutely true. All sides are trying to own him up, but without necessarily following his ideals, his thoughts, his philosophy. Dr. Ambedkar, when he criticized Hinduism, please note that Dr. Ambedkar made a distinction between Achar Dharma and Vichar Dharma. That is the way of behaving, behavioral part of the religion, and Vichar Dharma is the philosophy of the religion. He had no difficulty with the philosophy of the Hindu religion, but he had a serious problem with the behavioral aspect.
Let's draw Sugata Bose in your argument that Ambedkar is more useful to all parties dead than alive. When he was alive, whether it was the communists, whether it was the Congress, whether it was the RSS, the Hindu Mahasabha, they all had serious issues with him.
Right.
Narendra Yadav argues somebody like him is more useful dead than alive. You don't want a solid social revolutionary living amongst you at that time. You'd much rather that he be defied, put on a pedestal and prayed to, but long after he's gone.
Yes, I think, yes, Ambedkar has become even more important and relevant long after he has passed from the scene, and he has had something of a major revival in India from about the late 1980s and the early 1990s. But to address your question about was he more critical of the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS or of the Congress, I think we need to understand that there were three phases in Ambedkar's political career. One stretched up to about 1946. At that point, he was opposed to the RSS, which he saw was an organization based on upper caste Brahminical supremacy. But he was also critical of the Congress because he thought that Gandhiji's approach to the Harijans was rather patronizing. And so, when the British offered separate electorates to the depressed classes, the scheduled castes of today, Mahatma Gandhi went on a hunger strike, and Ambedkar had to make a compromise with him. And that's the origins of what we have today, reservations of seats in our legislatures and parliament for the scheduled castes and also the scheduled tribes. So he was critical of both. Then there was a very brief moment from 1947 to 1951 when, thanks to Mahatma Gandhi's generosity, Jawaharlal Nehru inducted Dr. Ambedkar into his cabinet, and he also served as chairman of the drafting committee of our constitution. Now, at that stage, he was forced to go along with some of the Congress's ideas of a centralized state. Before 1946, he was a proponent of a much more federal state. He envisioned a United States of India. That is a federalism that he had learned from his teacher, John Dewey, long ago at Columbia University. But that brief moment of working with the Congress High Command and the government ended in 1951. And after that, I think Ambedkar became a critic of both the conservative sections of the Congress as well as the Hindu Mahasabha, who were stymieing his social reform project. And that is what ultimately led to his spectacular conversion to Buddhism in 1956, the very last year of his life. So I think we need to periodize Ambedkar's life and see at which points he was rather more critical of the Congress and where he stood in terms of his ideology, his basic values, completely opposed to both the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS.
Also, when he resigns from Nehru's cabinet, the resignation letter is very revealing. It shows you the deep level of frustration with being assigned a ministry he thought was inconsequential, and how Nehru was making appointments based on friendship and pliability rather than competence. Pawan Verma, if the question was to be framed as who of the two would Ambedkar have disliked less?
Here and
where do you think Ambedkar would have come out? From his readings, his writings and everything he said and did, would he have disliked the Congress less, or would he have disliked the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS less?
You know, Rahul, the way you framed this question assumes that Ambedkar was perpetually in a situation of making a choice. He was a human being, a great human being, but he had certain ideals which he fought for, and I must say that the differences between him and Gandhiji, which actually reached a certain breaking point on the question of the separate electorates proposed by the British, was a very serious difference of opinion. But there was an attempt which succeeded in creating a modus vivendi and an agreement by which there were to be a certain number of reserved seats for scheduled castes. And that brought Ambedkar back into the Congress fold although his differences with Mahatma Gandhi on the degree to which more needs to be done for the scheduled caste to radically change Hindu society remained. But he was more in the Congress fold without a doubt. And let me say this, that in spite of the differences with Mahatma Gandhi, in spite of his publicly being critical of Jawaharlal Nehru and writing about it in the Annihilation of Caste, that on occasion Jawaharlal Nehru shows his Brahmanical origins. It was Gandhiji who recommended the name of Dr. Ambedkar's inclusion in the first cabinet formed by the Congress government in an independent India as Minister of Law. And again it was the Congress which appointed him as the chairperson of the Constituent Assembly Drafting Committee. So he was certainly within the Congress fold. What were his problems with the BJP and RSS? We must understand that. It's not as if that they came because you want to indulge in rhetoric. You see, he resigned from the Congress government in 1951 over the Hindu Code Bill. Now, the Hindu Code Bill was defeated in Parliament. And it was defeated largely by the opposition of entrenched upper caste Hindus who belonged to, let us say, as much the BJP and RSS as they did to certain sections of the Congress. So it's not a binary that Congress versus BJP. He was fighting a system, a very powerful system. And he resigned on the basis of seeing that this opposition to his ideals exists in both camps, as far as the BJP is concerned, and especially the RSS. If you have read his books, Riddles of Hinduism, which was written somewhere around 1954, 1955, he was extremely critical of some of the very things that now today the BJP refuses to even discuss, like the Manusmriti. Ambedkar criticized the Hindu Shastras. Ambedkar criticized the Hindu epics. Ambedkar criticized some of the Hindu forms of practiced religion.
No, but that's in the past. If you hear the comments from Bhagwat ji or from Prime Minister Modi, multiple top RSS BJP leaders are now on record saying, don't be bound by the past. Don't look at what Savarkar said or Hegdewar said or Guru Golwalkar said. It's here and now. Society evolves and opinions change. Yes, go on.
A very important point. You see, I want to first break this binary for your audience. Savarkar, whom the Congress rubbishes, was a great revolutionary and patriot for freedom, but he was also one of the most remarkable social reformists within Hinduism. There is no other voice within the RSS, BJP, Hindu right wing which spoke so strongly about removing the Sat Bediya or 7 fetters of Hinduism, which included Sparsh Mandir, untouchability, caste discrimination and 7 other such fetters. Savarkar spoke, Congress rubbishes him. Here you have RSS, Ambedkar criticizing icons of what are that of the BJP and the RSS. And you have RSS and BJP appropriating him. That is why I began my statement by saying that this is a juvenile war. Please go back to the ideals of Ambedkar and don't create a binary between the Congress and the BJP, because actually he was opposed to many factors which were very dear to very powerful elements in both segments.
Okay, you make an important point. I want to put that question to Kancha Alaiya now. Dr. Alaiya, if the question were framed as who would Ambedkar have disliked less, he had several ideological issues with both the Congress's mindset and the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS. Which of the two would he have felt less animosic towards? How would you respond? Kancha Alaiya.
Well, I would start right now from the present stage around Parliament and Delhi. if Ambedkar were to be alive, would he have aligned with Rahul Gandhi or Amit Shah?
Okay.
Leave Narendra Modi aside. Now, Congress had 3 phases where Ambedkar was allowed to completely transform Indian future. 1, writing of the Constitution. 2nd, Ambedkar's embracing Buddhism with 40 to 50 lakhs of people. And if BJP was in power at that time, or Janasangh or RSS, both these things they would not have allowed Ambedkar to do. 3rd, after Rahul Gandhi coming, I was never, I'm never a congressman or Congress supporter. I never had any power in their government or any so. Today Rahul Gandhi is holding Ambedkar photo in his hand and wearing a blue t-shirt, and on the other side, the main link between Narendra Modi's government and RSS, Amit Shah, is saying, you are taking an ordinary man's name 7 times. Instead of that, you should have taken God's name. Which God he is referring, we all know. We all easily understand. If that God's name, you would have gone to heaven.
No, which God is he referring to? You don't know that. You are trying to read into his mind and say things he didn't say. You are attributing motives.
To Rahul Gandhi. He would have supported to Rahul Gandhi now, because he is talking about caste census, because he is talking about removal of 50% reservation that Ambedkar visualized according to population data, and he is now, having come from Nehru family, having come from Indira Gandhi family, having come from Rajiv Gandhi family, who opposed the reservation in Mandal movement when I was fighting. His father opposed. Today this is what Congress is, with Kharge as the president of the party, who built a massive Buddhist vihar in his own constituency. Certainly Ambedkar would have.
Okay, so you've lit up this debate, and I'm also out of time. Kancha Ilaiah arguing that if Ambedkar was alive, of the 2 he would have sided with Rahul Gandhi and not with the BJP, because he's pushing for a caste census. Kharge as Dalit is president of the Congress. He's building these big statues, and therefore I'll get Hindol Sengupta to respond first. Final comments that if Ambedkar was alive today, Kancha Ilaiah argues he would have been on the side of Rahul Gandhi.
Only one thing to say, Rahul, that if Baba Saheb Ambedkar would have been alive today, he would have been cognizant of the fact that from all these decades, it took till 1990 to give a man like him the Bharat Ratna, and it did not come under a Congress government. He would have been very cognizant of that fact, that in what circumstances the Bharat Ratna was denied to him till 1990, and in what circumstances the Bharat Ratna was actually given to him. Surely that too, if he notices colors of clothing, surely he would remember that too.
Okay, that's just one argument. Let's see if Pawan Verma has more. Kancha Ilaiah sparks fire into the debate by saying if Ambedkar was alive, he'd be more willing to side with Rahul Gandhi than with the BJP.
Let me say to you, Rahul, very clearly, if Dr. Ambedkar was alive, he would be fighting the system in which both the BJP and the Congress and other ruling parties have failed his ideals. We are still a deeply hierarchical society where even today Dalits are actually killed for having the temerity of mounting a horse to lead their marriage procession. Let's be true to facts. We pay lip service to the Ambedkar Sahab today because the Dalit vote matters. But and we carry out this tamasha.
No, but can I counter what you're saying by saying, Pawan Verma, that you're citing these extreme cases? I mean, how many Dalits are being killed when they, jump onto a horse? And the fact that while there may be some opposition to marriage processions, etc., it's coming down. Society as a whole is less casteist or less animostic towards the Dalits than it was, say, 50, 60 years ago.
Yes, you are right. But remember, that is because Dalits have learned to fight for their own political empowerment. It is not because ground has been yielded necessarily by the upper castes in our country to the extent that it should have. We have had a Dalit chief minister in UP, not once but thrice, in spite of the system and because they have empowered themselves. Dr. Ambedkar would be asking that, contrary to what you just said, Rahul, why are cases under government statistics of the NCR be going up? Why are conviction rates following? Why are every day 6 Dalit women being raped and actually in the Hathras case being cremated by the police overnight? These are questions that Dr. Ambedkar would ask the political system.
Okay.
And which we must answer instead of playing out this war in Parliament.
Narendra Yadav, I'm out of time, so very quick final comments. Kancha Alaiya argues if he was alive today, he'd be more Team Rahul than Team BJP.
I would say very quickly that if Baba Saheb Ambedkar was alive, he would not have taken side of either BJP nor he would have taken side of Congress. He would have stood for his principles. And by the way, let me correct something that was said earlier by Pawan Verma, that Dr. Ambedkar at some point went into the Congress fold. Absolutely wrong. Dr. Ambedkar never entered Congress fold and he was very vocal about it. So he would not have joined either. He would not sided with either. And this is not to be seen as a binary thing. Dr. Ambedkar would have stood for his principles. Dr. Ambedkar was the one who awakened the social conscience of our country. Dr. Ambedkar would have fought for the principles that he laid down in the Constitution.
Okay.
Liberty, equality, fraternity, and social justice. That is what he would have stood for.
Professor Sugata Bose, final words. Would he have leaned more towards Rahul Gandhi than the current BJP? That's the argument that Kancha Alaiya makes. I want to hear your thoughts before I finish.
Well, he would probably have been closer to a social justice agenda, but I would still say that there is a strong element of political opportunism on both sides, and the time has come to make a really intellectually and politically honest assessment of Dr. Ambedkar, draw on his philosophy in order to break the shackles of caste-based discrimination, which still continues in our country today.
Well, we've had a fascinating contest of ideas. You've heard different perspectives from across the ideological spectrum. I want to thank Professor Sugata Bose, Narendra Yadav, Dr. Kancha Alaiya, Pawan Verma and Hindol Sengupta for joining us in this argument about the legacy, past and present, of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat has once again delivered a big message for peace to society. Amid the rising Mandir-Masjid dispute, Bhagwat ji issued a warning against stirring up disputes over the Places of Worship Act across India. Here's more on what the RSS chief said.
Amid rising Mandir-Masjid disputes, Mohan Bhagwat calls for harmony. The RSS Sarsang Chalak warned aspiring Hindu leaders against stirring up disputes over places of worship across India.
चलो राम मंदिर झालं पाहिजे ते होत आहे हिंदूंची श्रद्धास्थान हिंदूंना वाटतं परंतु असं केलं म्हणजे हिंदूमध्ये नेता होता येतं म्हणून किंवा अतिरेकी भूतकाळाच्या ओझ्याच्या परिणामामुळे अतिरेकी तिरस्कार, द्वेष, शत्रुता, संशय याच्या पोटी रोज एक नवीन प्रकरण काढणे हे कसं चालेल? हे नाही चालणार.
Advocating unity, Bhagwat said that the world needs to know Indians can live together.
शेवटी आपण आपलं सोल्युशन काय आहे? जगाला आपल्याला दाखवायचं आहे की आपण सगळे एकत्र नांदू शकतो. आपल्या देशात त्याचा छोटासा प्रयोग झाला पाहिजे. तो प्रयोग करताना आहेत आमच्या या सगळ्यांना सामावून घेणाऱ्या अनेक पंथ संप्रदायांच्या विचारधारा आमच्या इथे आहेत.
Samajwadi party chief Akhilesh Yadav took a jibe on Bhagwat, calling the advice a bit too late in the day.
जब 5 लोग मर गए, न जाने कितनों पे झूठे मुकदमे लग गए, न जाने कितनों को अपमानित होना पड़ा है, घरों में पुलिस गई है, महिलाओं के साथ अपमान का व्यवहार हुआ, तब कह रहे हैं कि हर मंदिर को नहीं खोदना चाहिए.
Congress MP Shashi Tharoor, however, endorsed Bhagwat's message of peace.
अब वो बिल्कुल ठीक ही कहा. इतिहास तो इतिहास है, बहुत कुछ हुआ है 500 साल पहले. अरे 21वीं शताब्दी में हमारे आज के जनता को कौन तकलीफ दे दे इसके बुनियाद में. मेरे ख्याल में अभी हम भविष्य के बारे में सोचने का वक्त आया है.
Bhagwat's big message of unity comes ahead of a Supreme Court deadline for the Narendra Modi government to give its view on petitions challenging the Places of Worship Act that bars claims on temples and masjids and keeps the status quo as of August 15, 1947. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where we wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.